our bacon. We started our bacon, right, in the first week, right? And then we smoked it, right? So this is it now. It's been vacuum packed, okay? And so once bacon is cured and then smoked, it's kind of normal to what we call equalize, because the outside will be drier than the inside from the smoking process, right? Because the smoking chamber is fairly low in humidity, right? And so what happens is the outside dries out, but the inside stays quite moist. And so what a lot of people tend to do is they vacuum pack it to let it equalize, so the moisture will dissipate through the meat more evenly, okay? This process also helps sort of cure it, but not in the curing process of like making it safe to eat, but curing it in the sense of making it more tasty, okay? It enhances the flavor, okay? So that's our bacon, okay? So we're going to use this later in one of our salads, our potato salad, okay? Then you also remember we brined our pastrami, right? You remember our beef? We soaked it in the liquid cure, right? The wet cure or brine. And then we covered it, and this has been smoked. And then this also has been vacuum packed, again to equalize and also to enhance the flavor. However, we can't just really eat, I mean, you could just slice that up and eat it, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But I like to eat meat with bread. They seem to just go well together. At least this type of bread, or this type of meat. So we're going to just whip up a quick, do you guys know what milk buns are? Right? Milk bun, bread bun, right? So we're going to whip up a very quick recipe for a bread bun. Also, you guys need to invest in some of these, okay? They're very cheap, right? Because in future classes, at least with me, you're not allowed to use towels under your cutting boards, okay? Towels in a kitchen, this is like money, right? I'm not even joking. If I had like 3 clean towels, another cook might come to me and say like, hey, listen, I'll buy you a Starbucks coffee if you give me 1 towel. Just 1 towel, please, man, I'm begging you, just 1 towel. This is like a currency. There's like US dollars, new Taiwan dollars, clean, dry towel dollars, okay? Currency. And you know, even, especially at NCUT, right? We don't get as many towels as we want, right? You get 1 bag per class, 1 towel per student, right? So, I mean, I could like get you guys to fight each other for towels. And I could broadcast on the internet and I'd become a millionaire, okay? I'm not gonna do that yet. So, invest in one of these, okay? Or as a class, you buy 1 big roll, 100 NT, everybody's got a piece. All you need is 1 piece or 2 pieces, whatever. I cut mine in half because depending on the cutting board size. And this keeps your cutting board from moving around, right? And then you each still have a towel, right? If we waste all our towels on cutting boards, then we have nothing to clean with, right? So, to get our bread going, I've got a mixing bowl. I've got some milk. I've got some water. And this is just a basic, very basic recipe. I'm more than happy to give you the recipe at another time. In Taiwan, you guys call this type of bread, you call it tu si, right? But that's not the real name for it, right? That's like if I had a handful of raw rice, right? Uncooked rice, would I call that chow fan? No, right? Because it hasn't been chow fan yet, right? It's just bread, right? You have to make toast out of the bread, right? So the accurate name for that type of bread, that type of loaf, is called a Pullman loaf. Pullman. That long sandwich bread, that bread is called a Pullman loaf, okay? You don't need to, it's good to write it down because it's good to memorize that kind of stuff, but don't worry too much about it. And in baking and pastry, in Introduction to Baking and Pastry, we'll make Pullman loaves and everything in that class. So you'll make the actual bread yourself, okay? Anyway, so I got a big mixing bowl here. I just want to warm up my milk and my water. I don't want it hot. I'm not making like a latte, okay? I just want to warm it up a little bit, so it's about 30 degrees, 35 degrees Celsius, just to help activate my yeast. Okay? Yeast is a lot like people, right? It needs food, it needs warmth to grow. It likes to be in like a spa, right? A hot spring. Okay? It likes to sit there, like, yeah, nice hot spring, right? Doesn't like to be cold, right? Just like you and me, right? I like to be cold. Okay, so I've also got here some bread flour, okay? Flour comes in a variety of different forms, okay? There's bread flour, which in Europe is usually referred to as hard flour, right? Then there's all-purpose flour, then there's pastry flour, and then there's cake flour, which is also sometimes called soft flour. There's a lot of variations in flour. The way that it's measured is how much protein is in here, okay? So the higher the protein means the more gluten, okay? Which is why you have, when you're making bread, you use bread flour because you want more gluten, right? And when you're making a cake, you use cake flour or soft flour because you want lower gluten, right? Can you imagine in your head if someone made you a cake, but it had the texture of a baguette, right? It would be very weird, right? Be like, oh, happy birthday, thank you, oh, this cake looks so great. And you're like, what the you know, it would be weird, right? And then if somebody made you a baguette that had the texture of a cake, you'd be like, oh, this is great, I love French baguettes, I want to make a little sandwich, you know, and then it just crumbles away. You're like, what the hell happened to my baguette? What? Right? It doesn't make sense, right? So all-purpose flour means you can use it for cakes, you can use it for pastries or bread, right? It's all-purpose, right? The only problem with all-purpose is you're not going to get the best bread and you're not going to get the best cake. But it's very versatile, right? It's kind of in between hard or bread flour and soft or cake flour, okay? So think of it like the rainbow of flours, okay? Bread flour being the most gluten and cake flour being the least amount of gluten or protein, okay? Then there's pastry flour, which is in between cake and all-purpose, which is used for making things like puff pastry or croissants, okay? And that in Taiwan, that's actually very expensive, so we don't usually use that. So that's already warm enough. So that's a little bit about flour, okay? And don't worry, that's not going to be on any kind of test in this course anyways, because this isn't the butchery and flour course. But it's good to know what you're doing, right? So I'm going to tip my flour into my bowl here. I've also got some eggs. I've also got some butter. This is milk powder, okay? So this is just basically dehydrated milk, okay? This helps to add sort of a richness and an extra sort of dairy component to the bread. It's very common in bakeries nowadays to add a little bit of milk powder to things just to help enhance that sort of rich, buttery taste or feeling, okay? So I'm just going to put this in. I've got some sugar here, and the sugar I'm just going to drop into my milk and my water to help dissolve it. I've got some instant yeast, okay, and I've got some good quality salt, okay. So in terms of bread, or in terms of, so I guess in terms of bread, there's sort of two types of bread. We have one definition of bread which we call lean, right? L-E-A-N, lean. And then we have one that's called rich or enriched, okay? Just think rich, okay? So a lean bread dough is basically just a bread dough that has no or little amount of fat. So in this particular recipe, there's 3 sources of fat. What are they? Milk, yeah, and? Milk, oh, sorry, yeah, you're right, there's 4. Oh, there's 4. Milk powder, butter, and eggs, right? Egg yolks are very high in cholesterol, very high in fat, right? So what that does is, so a lean bread dough, like a baguette, okay? A traditional baguette dough is basically just water, a raising agent like a levain or yeast, and flour. Usually like some salt and stuff like that, but so there's no fat, okay? And so that's how a baguette texture is fairly, you guys, I mean, a lot of Asian countries think it's very tough or chewy, right? But that's the way it's supposed to be, right? It's not supposed to be like soft and like pillowy, okay? A baguette is supposed to fight with you, right? You have to work for that bread. But an enriched bread that has a lot of fat, like sandwich bread or toast bread, right? It's very soft and easy to pull apart, right? The difference is because you guys have heard of the term gluten before? Gluten. Gluten, gluten. That's what gives bread its structure or body, okay? The more gluten you develop, the tougher or more chewy the bread will be. So what happens is there's no gluten in flour, okay? Flour is made up of two proteins that when they're mixed with liquid form gluten, okay? So there's two proteins in here. One is called glutenin and one is called gliadin. Don't worry about that. Again, I can give you this information later if you're interested. So these two proteins, they're just hanging out, you know, having a party in the flour. Actually, they're not doing anything. They're just like this. Then along comes liquid, either in the form of eggs or water or milk, right? He shows up. He's like, what's up? He gets them together. They start having a huge KTV dance party, okay? They're having a great time. The more they have a KTV dance party, the stronger they get. That's the more gluten is being developed, right? By mixing it. So we mixing, developing or stretching these gluten strands, and that's what gives the structure or body to the bread. Okay? However, another term that's used in bakeries a lot is called shortening. Shortening, yeah, you might have heard of that before. A lot of people think of shortening as just animal fat or vegetable fat. Okay? That's sort of an Americanized term that they give to that product. But in baking, shortening is anything that helps to shorten the gluten strands. And fat stops the gluten from developing too much. So the fat molecules, right, from the butter, the egg yolks, and whatever else you have in here. A little bit of butter there for me. The fat molecules in there, as we mix it, they basically make the gluten strands kind of slip, okay? And so they can't really stretch to become really long or develop into tough or more structured bread as we need them and make them grow and develop. The shortening in there helps them kind of slip off each other and they kind of shorten again, okay? And so that's how we get a more tender or soft bread, okay? Does that kind of make sense? Think of like two elastic bands trying to connect together and you're stretching them, but if you put grease on them, they just slip right off each other, right? That's essentially what we're doing here, okay? So what we're making today is an enriched or a rich dough, okay? And this dough can be used, we're gonna make small buns today, just like a small milk bun. We'll cut them in half, pile them up with some pastrami. We're gonna make a little coleslaw. We're gonna make some potato salad. And then we're gonna brine our pork loins because we have to brine our pork loins for a week. Then we're gonna tie them, and we're gonna smoke them to make what's called Kassler Schinken, which is a German smoked pork loin. And we're going to use that to make another sandwich, a very, very famous French sandwich called a croque monsieur. You know the croque monsieur? Of course, you have to, I think, right? It's like a prerequisite, right? So a croque monsieur is a wonderful, very traditional French sandwich of bread with ham, bechamel, cheese, and sometimes an egg, which would be called a croque madame. So and maybe we'll do it with an egg, actually, because we'll be early in the morning, right? It's a wonderful, wonderful breakfast. You'll probably have to go to sleep after, but that's fine. Okay, so I've got my milk and water here, okay? I've also got instant yeast. Instant yeast also comes in 4 varieties. There's instant, dry active, fresh, and wild. Okay, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. First, I want to get this going. So I'm going to get my yeast in there. I'm going to put my salt on the other side of the bowl because yeast and salt are not friends, okay? They're not pungos. Yeast, think of salt. Salt is a preservative, right? Which means it kills bacteria, right? Yeast is a fungus, a mold, right? So if we mix them too early, it'll kill it, okay? We need to start to develop first. I could add the salt later, but I just want to get everything in and get it mixing, okay? So I'm going to get my eggs in here. I'm going to get my butter in here. I'm going to pour my I don't know why I keep, yeah. What is this? I'm going to pour my milk, water, and sugar into my bowl here. And I'm going to take this out into the main kitchen. I'm just going to mix it, okay? I'll get it running and then I'll come back in and we'll keep going, okay? But I'm just going to run out and do this. This I'm going to mix for about 8 to 10 minutes on a medium and low speed. So probably about 2 minutes on low and then another 6 or 7 minutes on medium, okay? Just so. Fast and the Furious 9. Ah, yeah. Okay. So I've got a pot of water boiling here. This is for our potatoes, to make our potato salad. And I'm gonna only cook about half these because there's not so many people here today, and I can use them for my next class anyways. The other thing we've got here is a meat slicer. How many in this room have used a meat slicer before? Nobody has ever used a meat slicer. You've used one probably, right? Yeah. So, have you used one? No, okay. What? Okay. So, this should come out, but it doesn't. So, a meat slicer has, why did they do this? Oh, they left me there. So, a meat slicer is made up of a few different parts, okay? This is the arm, or the feeding arm, okay? So, this is where you would put your product, whatever it is, right? This is called the safety guard, right? And it's got these teeth here. You would use this to force your product down as you're slicing across, okay? So that's your arm, okay? And this is what keeps it on here. So this is a little swing here, right? Back and forth, yeah? On the back side here, which you can't see, but you can come and take a look later, there's a dial. And the dial will lower this back piece here, okay? And that will change the thickness of what you're cutting. So the blade stays in place, and this plate here moves up and down, okay? There's also a plate here that when you're cleaning it, you'll just remove by undoing this back screw. And this just comes off. It's a little, okay, this just comes off, okay? So when you break it down to clean it, this is what it should look like. It should come apart in all these pieces. So this is a blade that you can't really take off, okay? You have to unscrew it, but it's not really convenient, okay? So when you want to sharpen it, there's this part here. It's got two grinding wheels. So you know a sharpening stone, right? The stone for sharpening knives, right? This is basically like two sharpening stones for your knife. And when you want to sharpen it, you just turn it like this. You turn it on, and then you just press these. You just press these down, and as it turns, okay, it'll sharpen the blade. Okay? Always, when you're using the machine, make sure that's to the back. You don't want this like this, and you're cutting food, because this will start to get metal in your food, right? Aluminum. Okay? So when you want to use this machine, you got to make sure you put it back properly together. And this just goes onto here. And there you go, okay? So obviously you have to be really careful when using this because you can hear how fast this blade is spinning, right? It's moving really, really, yeah. There's a cockroach out of there. These guys really are filthy. God damn it. All right. As I said before that cockroach made his appearance, when you're using this machine, you really need to be careful, okay? I've used these machines a lot, so I tend not to use this, okay? But I'm also fairly careful when I use it as well, okay? But you guys, for sure, always use this, okay? So, I'm gonna need someone to come up here and start to cut the cabbage, please. Who would like to, anybody? Nobody wants to cut cabbage? I mean, if you guys don't cut the cabbage, we're not having coleslaw, right? And if we're not having coleslaw, then we're not having pastrami. So if you guys don't feel like participating, then we just don't eat. That's how this works, yeah? Okay. So just take your cutting board, cut this in half, clean off the leaves, okay? And then I'll show you how to cut that. Was this your station? Was this your station? Okay. Next, you two can come back down, please. So one of you is going to start to slice these green onions. So you're going to trim them, okay, wash them, and you're going to slice them very, very thin, okay? All right. And you can just put them in there once they're sliced, okay, but clean them first. Okay, next thing we need to do, you are going to take some pickles, and you're going to do a fine dice, okay? Do you know fine dice? So you just take the ends off. No, that's not, no, this is for the cut. Yeah. So you can just slice it like this, okay? So it's flat, right? Then again. Like that, okay? And you're just going to cut them like this. Just like that, okay? Got it? So that you can do about six or seven, something like that. It's fine. And then you can just put them into a bowl or into a container, whatever. When you're done, you can even put them on there. It's fine. What are you looking for? Just use this for food garbage now. We'll get another bowl since it's already been dirtied. So the other thing we need to do is start cooking some potatoes for potato salad, obviously. And there is a million kinds of potato salad on the planet. We're going to make sort of an American style potato salad. So I'm just going to take about half of these and dump them into my water there. And that's just lightly salted water, okay? I also want to start to hard boil some eggs as well, because potato salad often has eggs in it. So I'm just going to put that on and get that starting to boil. My bread is still mixing, so I'll just let that go for another minute or so. other thing we need to do is start to get our brine ready for our pork loins. So if you can turn to your book, open up your book to the page that has Kassler Schinken, one of you. Just go through the recipe for me real quick. I'm fairly sure there must be curing salt in there, right? Sorry?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. How much?
8%.
8% curing salt. No, but is there a weight down in the recipe? Huh? Okay. So figure out what is 8% of 4 kilos. So for our pork loin, for the cure, I'm just going to take some onions, and I'm going to throw them into a bin. And we've also got some whole garlic here. So I'm just going to sprinkle in some cloves of garlic. So the garlic doesn't really affect the curing process, it merely adds flavor, okay? That's the only thing with that. Same with the onions. They're merely there to add flavor. You good over there? So you're going to start using the meat slicer to shave the cabbage, okay? You don't have to move. Just. Okay. Why don't you cut this again into quarters, okay? It'll make it easier to use on the machine, okay? And I think you can just cut this one in quarters. This will just save for something else. So the potatoes we want to cook until they're about 70% cooked. Okay, we don't want them to be too soft or too mushy because they're going to keep cooking after we take them out of the water, right? Right? When you take something out of heat, it doesn't immediately cool down unless you shock it in ice water, right? We call that carryover cooking, okay? That's extremely important when you're cooking fish or meat or any kind of protein. Carryover cooking, right? Because let's say that somebody wants a steak medium rare, and you cook it to medium rare. By the time they get it, it'll probably be more like medium. Okay, so you have to learn to adjust for those things. Do we have fresh thyme? What? Really? I don't see any. Fresh thyme? No? Okay. So I also want to start boiling some more water. There's not enough pots and pans in here. Your order list says fresh thyme, yeah? Yeah, but I'm not seeing it. Did you order it and the senior class took it? Or, huh? But did you receive it? So you picked it up from purchasing. All right, ready? You're cutting it on the meat. I'm not cutting it on the meat slicer. You're cutting it on the meat slicer. So you're just going to take this, okay? And again, using the guide here, okay? That's your on button. That's your off button, okay? So this normally would be done by hand, right? But this is way faster. And it's going to be the same exact thickness, right? And this is going to be a raw cabbage salad. So for raw cabbage, you don't want it very thick, right? It's not really pleasant to eat. So we're just going to do it fairly thin. And you're going to need one more bowl. Give me that bowl. So you can see just from using the meat slicer, we get really, really nice, very, very thin cabbage, okay? And it's always going to be like that, right? It'll always be the same thickness, okay? So you're going to turn it on. Using the guard, you're just going to go through, okay? Jayo. No. What do you, no. Well, yeah, I mean, unless you're like Professor Xavier and you can just move it like this. So you're going to slice a bunch of it and then move it, okay? So unfortunately, that machine is not very quiet. Who on earth designed the egg containers in Taiwan? They're just the worst. I hope whoever invented these things really just needs to go to jail. All right, I'm going to go grab my bread real quick. So you guys received time, right? From some logistics, right? All right. What? No, I don't want dry time. Substituting dry time and fresh time is not really the same. It's fine. I'll just talk to the seniors later.
Because in the recipe, in the book,
Yeah?
it said dry time,
Yes, but what does your order list say?
fresh. So that's why I thought that would be better. So that's why
No, I understand that. I just don't want to. I like to use fresh, like it's always better to use fresh herbs when you can. And that's sometimes I'll just change the recipe from from dry to fresh. But if they just took our fresh thyme, then there's not much we can do about that, unfortunately. Okay. So our bread's done. So I'm just going to clean off my hook, and it should come out fairly easily. So there's our dough. And this dough now, I'm just going to give this a bit of a knead here. So I basically, by mixing it, I've developed the gluten enough, okay? But now I want to knead it just to finish off that development and also to form it into a nice ball, okay? So kneading, you just kind of want to stretch it out a little bit and fold it on itself, okay? So I'm basically tearing the dough a little bit. And this I'm going to do for a couple of minutes. Okay. So now I've got this nice ball here. I'm just going to put it over to the corner. I'm going to cover it with some plastic, and I'm going to let it start to proof the first time, okay, the first round. Normally I have in my office, I have what's called a couche. A couche is like a blanket, a bread blanket. It's made out of really high quality fabric. It's what most professional bakeries use, okay? It's usually like a big rectangle. It's usually like sort of a brown color. But I left it this morning. I just forgot it in my office, but plastic works just as well. So what I want to do now is let this at least double in size, okay? That should take probably 30 minutes. I find that instant yeast is very quick acting, okay? Fresh yeast is better, but it's slower acting, okay? So I'm just going to check my potatoes here. So basically when you put a knife in, if it falls off fairly easily, that's about good to go, okay? But we're making it for potato salad. So I want to cook it just a little bit more until it's fully soft in the middle, okay? When you put your knife into a potato, if it sticks to it, that means that in the middle of the potato is still hard, right? Because it's stuck to your knife. As a potato cooks, the meat or the flesh gets soft, right? So if you put a knife in, it comes out very easily. That means the inside is nice, soft, ready to take out. Okay, shishini. So next, let's get rid of that. Clean off your workstation, clean off your boards. Let's get rid of this. Let's dump it out. Clean off your work boards. You can wipe this off as well. Before you clean this, yeah, anybody, everybody, before you clean this, first, make sure it's back to 0. The dial here, right? Make sure this is to 0. Off, and unplugged, okay? Now you're not gonna clean it with water, okay? But it's a good habit to get into, right? We're gonna use this again, so just wipe it down. Make sure there's no cabbage on it, okay? All right. So I'm gonna get some eggs cooking back here. Now, normally, when I cook eggs, I do everything by time, you know, because I want to control the egg yolk. I want to make sure, normally when I hard cook eggs, I like them to be soft in the middle, okay? But for potato salad, it's normally hard boiled, okay? So to do that, we're going to cook them for about 10 minutes. So can someone set a timer for 10 minutes for me, please? So I've also got some water boiling here for our brine, okay? Because we need to dissolve our salt and our sugar in hot water, right? And then we'll add some ice to make it cold before we put our pork in, okay? That's the right pot. So I'm going to add a few little spices. Again, you can kind of add whatever spices you'd like to your brines, right? It just, keep in mind of what you're making, right? Does it fit? Like pork, would I put cinnamon sticks in there? Probably not, right? I know like in Chinese cooking, right? When you make like don po ro or something like that, you add you don't need to take it apart. Hey, I didn't say take it apart. I just said wipe it off so there's no cabbage in there. You can do that very easily, but I like where your head's at. In Chinese cooking, they use very different spices than Western cooking, right? For different meats, right? So obviously, if you want to make sort of a smoked Chinese-style pork loin, by all means, put in cinnamon, star anise, Sichuan peppercorns, right? Whatever you want. I'm going to use some allspice, okay? A little handful of that. Some more juniper berries, okay? Which we used last. I'm just going to use all those and get rid of them, finally. And some mustard seeds, because those are also good. And they should have a salt and pepper container up here, but they don't. I'm just going to grab a salt container. They should have one here, but they don't. Okay. I'm also going to put in some, did someone set a timer for me? 10 minutes? Great. I'm going to put in some bay leaves and a handful of black peppercorns. And that will be the starting of our brine. So now for the potatoes, I'm just going to drain the water off and then put them onto a tray and into the fridge. Okay, great. So these are going to go into a tray. Then I'm just going to use this pot again to keep boiling more water for my cure. Could one of you, please, one of you guys, when you walk in the fridge, go up to the first station on your left, you'll see some fridges. Open the fridge door, you'll see some chocolate cake in there. Just put that next to the chocolate cake to cool down, please. Okay, very good, ladies. Thank you. All right. So I've got some water here. I'm going to just top this up a little bit more. So for the rest of the cure recipe, how much sugar is in there? 200 grams, 250 grams? For the Kassler Schinken? The pork? 250? Okay. How much time is left on the eggs? How much time is left on the eggs? 4 minutes? Okay, can you get some ice, please? One of you, thank you. So 250? Okay, great. So I'm going to put in 250 grams of sugar. So our potatoes are cooling down. So sugar's going to go in. And how much curing salt? Sorry? That's 8% of 4950? Sorry, that's my fault. The water, sorry. My apologies. The brine percentage is based on the water to salt ratio, sorry. So that should be about 175, 165. Shishini, dog. We might need some more, but that's all good for now. $75? 8% of 4,950. Owen? 396. Okay. Owen, you're showing me your phone like I can see your phone from here. What do you think I am, Eagle Eye? He's just like, yep, here's the answer. I can't see that far away, man. So 396. Very good. Thank you. So for this one, we're going to use cure number 1 because we're going to, this one is going to be cooked fully, okay? So we're going to brine this. So brine is another name for what? Sorry? What? Cure? No. Huh? No. There's two kinds of cures, right? So a brine is another name for a wet cure. Be specific, right? Just in time. You get it? Time. Just in time. All right. So we're going to put some fresh thyme in here. That's going to work out real nice now. How much time is left? More time. How much time is left on the eggs? 40 seconds. Ooh, we're down to the wire here. Okay. 395 grams, right? So we're going to use 395 grams of curing salt. Shimon! Okay. Sorry, yeah. When you see sometimes butchery shops, they'll have recipes for like brine percentages. And so they have like maybe a 7% brine, an 8% brine, a 10% brine. So that's the relation between salt and water. Okay. That's the relationship between salt and water, okay? Because the more water you have, the less salty it is, right? Diluted, right? So I'm going to take my eggs, also drain that off. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of this ice on here. And we'll just get those cooling real quick. My salt going in. So in here now I've got sugar, I've got salt, I've got, curing salt, right? Curing salt number 1. I've got onions, I've got garlic, I've got some fresh thyme. I put in some allspice, some black peppercorns, some mustard seed, some bay leaf. But again, you can really change this to your own desired taste. Okay? So these are just sort of basic cures and basic brines, but you can adjust them depending on what you're using it for later. Okay? So now I need to weigh up some water. So that's hot enough to dissolve my cure. So the recipe is 4.95 liters, right? Correct? So 4,950 divided by 2 is 2,475. Is that right? What did I just say? 2,475? Okay, so now we're going to weigh up 2,475 of hot water. All right. Correct? I'm looking at Owen. Owen's my math guy. Owen's my math guy. Owen, is that right? 75? Okay. Okay, there's 2,000. I'm a little worried. Are you guys arguing about the math here?
No, because I was out, so I'm not
Okay. Whew. I thought you guys were arguing about if that percentage was right or not. Okay, so that was 2. So now I just need another 475, which is just about this guy full. All right. Okay. So now we've got our brine water done. So now I just want to mix this around a little bit just to dissolve that sugar and that salt. And it doesn't take very long. A little side-to-side action, a little swisheroo is just fine. And now we'll get our ice in here. So now we're going to weigh up 2,475 grams of ice. Mr. Bing Kwai. Just fill it all the way up again, okay? So just remember this, okay? 1.1 kilos. The things that, digital scales are great, right? They're accurate, but if you don't use them, they turn off. They're really kind of annoying. They're like, oh, you're not using me anymore? It's not like Netflix, right? When you're watching Netflix and you don't touch your phone for a while, it's like, hey, are you still watching? I would kind of hope a scale would be like, hey, are you still weighing? But they don't do that. They're not very nice like that. So they tend to just shut off. Okay, next thing we want to do, my cutting team. Come on down. Come on down, team chopping. Do you guys have a vegetable peeler? Just one is fine. So you can each start with one of these. One here and one here. Okay, great. So whose cutting board is this? Okay, so then you're going to come around here, peel, and then I'm going to show you how to cut them. We're going to make julienne. You guys know julienne? Yeah? Okay, so make julienne. You are going to open this up, okay? Open that up and put it on your cutting board. Okay. You all right there? You sure? All right. So now we needed, we had 1.1, right? So 2,475 minus 1.1. No, what is that? 1375? 1375. Second. All right. So now this, I'm just going to move. So we've got our brine here, okay? We've got our ice, we've got our hot water, we've got our sugar, we've got our curing salt, we've got our onions, garlic, mustard seeds, peppercorns, juniper berries, allspice, fresh thyme. And this, I'm just going to move back here out of the way. Okay, so now you're going to cut this just in half like that, okay? There's really not enough trays up here. Somewhat annoying, but that's all right. All right, yeah? Okay, so there's our bacon, okay? So you can see now it's still got a very nice pink interior, okay? That's one of the benefits of using nitrite, okay? Now, I mentioned this before, and I think in the beginning of the class, there's a lot of people that say, like, oh, nitrite is bad for you, blah, 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 right?
Yes. He said that.
I said that?
Yeah.
No, I don't say that. Other people say that. I like using nitrite. I don't want to die. Whoa, booyah, die. So, there's really no do you understand the term definitive? Definite? Like for instance, the sun rises in the morning and it sets at night. That's definitive. There's no like, well, I think the sun actually comes up at nighttime. Right? If you say that, people say you're insane and you go to a mental hospital. So, so there's no definitive science or answer about using nitrites and not using nitrites. Some people think that they are, hey, wait a minute. I said get all the cabbage out of here. Surprise! There's still cabbage there. So why don't you get all the cabbage? You don't have to take it off, but just wipe it off, okay? Just a quick wipey wipe. Wipey, wipey, wipe. So there's no definitive set in stone answer, okay? That nitrites are bad or nitrites are not bad, okay? There's science to support two viewpoints of this argument, okay? Nitrites are high in sodium, right? And it's understood, right? It is medical science that a high sodium, high salt diet leads to a heart failure, okay? Nobody's like, nah, I don't believe that. I mean, people say that, but then they also go to a mental hospital. So there's no arguing that like eating salt is bad for you, okay? But anything in life, right, is moderation. I love croissants, right? If there was a croissant diet where it was like, eat croissants and lose weight, I'd be set. I'd be the skinniest man in the world because I eat croissants all the time. Before bed, when I wake up, halfway through the day, I'm a croissant eating machine. I can smell croissants from a mile away. Unfortunately, butter, while it's healthy, it's also unhealthy, right? Small amounts of butter are good for your body, right? Too much, you gain weight. Okay? It's high in cholesterol. So there's like, it really depends on what your viewpoint chooses to be, okay? Now when it comes to nitrites, you know, bacon is smoked and it's cured. And if you don't use nitrites, you get a very discolored interior, okay? It'll be kind of a gray or brown looking meat. What nitrites do, this is fully cured now, right? So we could just eat this. Okay? No problem. The texture might be a little weird because it's still fairly soft, right? But it's not going to kill you. You won't get any bacteria infection or anything like that. So the nitrites do two things. The nitrites do two things. They kill the bacteria, but they also provide the coloration here. Okay? They react with something in the meat called hemoglobin, right? Which you guys know, I hope. And they keep that red color. Okay? So that's why one of the reasons why I like to use nitrites and nitrates when I make cured meats, because for the most part, the most part that I'm concerned in is the safety. Okay? And I don't know if, do you guys remember, I think in hygiene and safety I told you about this, but also in this class, do you remember I told you in South Africa, there was that meat company that had the big outbreak of listeria and like 150 or 180 people died? That was because they made cured meats improperly. Okay? So I like to err on the side of safety. Now again, everything in moderation. If you eat bacon every meal, like for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it always has bacon. Maybe your coffee, some bacon, right? It doesn't matter whether you use nitrites or don't use nitrites, you're still going to have health problems because you're eating so much salt, right? So if you make smart choices about how much you consume of something, it shouldn't matter, because remember that we use a small amount of pure nitrite in a large amount of salt, so then it's very, very finite, right? It's a very small amount. And then we dilute that or we use it in a large scale production, right? So the amount of nitrite that you get in one piece of bacon is almost immeasurable, okay? So it really depends on your choices, okay? I'm not gonna, like the Taiwanese government says, oh, you can't use that. Okay, so if I opened up a shop, I wouldn't be able to use nitrite. So I probably wouldn't open up a butchery shop. But for teaching, I'm gonna teach you guys that there's two ways to do it, right? I think personally it's better to be safe. The government here says, whatever. I don't know. Okay, are you ready, my friend? All right, look at these two, just going nuts here. So we're gonna take some of this nice bacon here, and oh, this meat slicer's not big enough. Of course it's not. Okay, well then what we're gonna do is just cut it in half, which I also don't like to do. Oh, wonderful. And so you're just gonna take this using the slicing guard there, okay? Oh, it's not plugged in. So we're going to turn it on. So you're just going to make some nice slices like that, okay? And do the whole thing, okay? Yeah, you use that. I don't use that. You use that. Okay. So, next thing I need to do is, so now you can see our bread, right? It's quite big now, right? You can even see that there's bubbles of gas, right? So that's the yeast that we put in there is now eating the sugar and the flour, okay? Sugar and flour are both carbohydrates. They're energy, right, for yeast. So now what we need to do, so this particular stage now, we're going to call, it's called punching down, okay? Punching down. Pretty easy to figure out how they named it like that, right? So we just want to punch it down. It's also known as degassing, okay? Degassing. Degassing means that we're punching it down to like eliminate the extra gas, okay? Which might seem opposite of what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to develop gas, right? But I'll wait a minute till the machine's done. So I'm just going to punch it down like this, and then I'm going to get a dough cutter. Oh, shishini. What's going on here? Oh, yeah, you can just turn it over. Just flip it. No. Like flip it front to back. Yeah, so every like 5 or 6 pieces, flip it front to back, okay? Right behind you, right behind you, right behind you. Right behind you, right behind you. Okay. Luckily, I always keep parchment paper in my bag. You never know when you're going to need something, right? So I always keep a little bit of string in there, a few pieces of parchment paper, you know, you never know. So now what I want to do is split this up into sort of smaller buns. If I was going to make a Pullman loaf, I would split this up into 3 equal pieces, roll it into a log, put it into a special pan that has a lid. That's called the Pullman pan. And then I would let it rise for about an hour until actually it was almost exploding or coming out of the pan, and then I would bake it, okay? But we don't need to do that today. What I want to do with this is now just split it up and make smaller buns. Now, if I was in a bakery shop or a hotel, you know, something where we had to like make very uniform sizes, I would weigh this individually, right? Because it's all about consistency, right? Inconsistent restaurants always fail. Okay, McDonald's, most successful restaurant in the world, right? I mean, because of consistency, mostly because of price, but you always know what you're getting, right? It's not good. You know you're not getting good food, but at least you know that, right? They're consistent about the poor quality of food they serve. But that's why people go there, right? They know exactly what you're going to get. Okay, so I'm just going to scale this. I'm just going to weigh one. I'm just going to weigh one piece. And that'll give me sort of a benchmark of how big I want to make these. Good. Okay. Oh, look at, it's Jay. So I'm weighing each of these at about 75 grams. And a couple grams more or less is not a big deal. So when you're making bread, no one can tell the difference between 75 grams and 78 grams, right? Unless they're a robot, like a cyborg, right? It's impossible to tell. But 70 grams and 100 grams, you can probably tell. Okay. How are we doing there on the meat slicer? Pretty good? That's fine. You can just leave that piece there. Just leave it right there. Just leave it right there. Third time's the charm. And now this you can just make a dice. Kind of a large dice is fine. Okay? Okay? You sure? Okay? All right. Okay. Now, the other thing we need to start doing is balling these up. So there's a process in baking. It comes from there's a bakeries in France. Bakeries in France are often called boulangeries. Okay, so there's a process in baking where you ball. It's a technique. Okay, where you ball up breads. Okay, that's sort of how boulangeries became called boulangeries. So I'm just going to take my ball here and I'm just going to fold everything underneath. Okay? So I've just got like a nice little package under there, right? But now what I want to do is using my hand, I just want to sort of tighten the outside of the bun so that it keeps a nice shape. And so to do that, I use my fingers and my thumb, okay? And I'm sort of rolling around in there, okay? I'm not putting any pressure really down or on the sides, but what I'm doing is I'm pushing with my thumb, and then I'm bringing back with my fingers underneath, okay? And so when you speed that up, it looks like that. And so what you should end up with is kind of a swirl on the bottom, and then a nice tight surface on the top, okay? So again, I'm just pushing and then pulling, and pushing and pulling, okay? You see the difference in my fingers? So from this side, I'm pushing with my thumb, and what that does is that pulls the bread underneath, okay, and it creates tension. So I'm pushing down and then underneath, and I want to be careful with my knives here. I've had some bad luck in this class. Next time I look, oh, So I'm just pushing and pulling with my thumb, okay, see? And when you speed it up a little bit, then what you should have is just like a nice little swirl on the bottom, okay? You can see there's a nice little sort of spiral shape. That's basically sealed up the dough on the bottom, and my top is just a nice soft little top, okay? So who would like to come and do some boulangerying for me? Yeah, boulet. Who would like to do, anybody? Yeah, come on down, come on down. Wash your hands first, please. I'm just going to keep scaling these off, okay? Wash your hands, dry your hands. Careful of the tray, please. Don't knock it off. And there's lots of buns here, so you don't have to come down all at once. Careful of the tray, please. Don't knock it off. Dry, wash and dry your hands, please. So once you've got your hands clean and dry, you can try. Have you cleaned your hands? Okay, you can try. You do one or two each and then you sit down again, please. There's lots here. Everybody can try. So fold it over. Make sure you, hey, Owen, make sure you fold it over nicely. Okay, and you're also stretching it and tightening it, okay? See? So then you have like a nice sort of little ball like that already. And then you're just going to push and pull, push and pull, push and pull. Okay, and I'm just using my, under this part. I'm not really using the palm of my hand. Okay, and I'm just rolling it around underneath. So then I get a nice little swirl there. Okay, and the top is very smooth. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty good. And that can just go onto the baking sheet, and you can put them fairly close together. Okay, yeah, just about a finger or 2 fingers apart. Yeah, I mean my fingers, not your fingers. Okay, that's good. So do 1 or 2 and then go sit down again and let everybody get a try. That looks good. Yeah, but I'm more interested in the top. Yeah, good, yeah, perfect, yeah. Yeah, good. See? It's not an incredibly hard technique to do well. Yeah, that's okay. So do 1 or 2 each and then sit down, please. Make sure everybody gets a chance. Okay, perfect. How are we doing here? That looks great. Owen, have you done a couple already? Yeah. So maybe you can help me just to start to wash some of these bowls in here because we need some of them for over there, please. Okay. Just give a couple of these bowls, just give them a quick rinse, please. Sorry. And careful, that water is really hot, okay? It's very hot. It's from when I cook the potatoes, yeah? Okay, that looks good, yeah? This is not so... You got to fold there. What you don't want is like gaps, because when it cooks, this will just expand, right? So what you want to do is make sure you get it nice and tight, okay? And then really roll it tightly between your fingers, okay? Remember to pushing with your thumb. See how it's pushing this bread out? It's getting very tight there. See how the top of the bread is getting very tight? So I'm pushing out with my thumb and then coming under with my fingers. Okay? And so then I'm basically just using the front of my hand. I'm not using the palm at all. And then so you see now I've got a very nice tight closed bottom and a very nice tight top. Okay. Put that there, that's fine. That's good, yeah, not bad, not bad. Okay, I'm just gonna run downstairs to grab some vinegar. Doesn't have to be, yeah, that's fine, yeah. That's great, actually, perfect. That looks wonderful. And yeah, that's great like that. I hope it's not too close, but we'll see what happens. Try to keep it straight. That looks okay, yeah. Remember guys, it's just, we're making a simple bread. It's not, doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Just try to practice it a little bit. I'm gonna run downstairs and grab some vinegar. When I'm gone, if you guys could start to peel these eggs as well, please, that would be great. And then ladies, once you're done that, we're gonna move on to celery, okay? But first I'm gonna nip downstairs real quick and grab a couple things. Right behind you, I'm gonna need you to just slide right out. Yeah, okay. Wait, thank you very much. Okay. All done? Ooh, we have a few extra, huh? Well, that's okay. We can do something about that. To be honest with you, I don't care. We can throw those out too. It's not a big deal. All right. There's enough here for everybody. I don't need to cook 6 extra. All right. All of our eggs are done, or almost done. Finished, Jan? Okay. This is garbage. Thank you, Owen. Just dump out the water for me there. And that can just go to the sink, yeah? Just take the whole thing over, please. Okay. Lovely. That's great. Okay. At all. All right. Yes. That you're gonna do a small dice. You are gonna come, this is our bacon, right? Okay. So now you're gonna come and start to cook this bacon for me. Okay, so we got a little pan here. Did you guys grab paper towel today?
Paper towel?
Yeah. No?
We didn't bring it.
Okay, make sure you guys always bring it up. So like the basic stuff, like saran wrap, paper towel. In the bathroom, there should be, in the hand wash area, just grab a few pieces. So you're just gonna cook this slowly, okay? Until it's nice and crunchy, okay? Great. All right. So now with our bread, we've got them balled up or portioned up. And then again, we're just going to take some plastic and just cover them. And this will start our final proof, okay? And then before they go into the oven, we'll give them an egg wash, okay? And the egg wash just to add some extra color and a little bit of nice texture to the outside. That's a lot. Thank you, that's great. Just lower the heat now to slowly cook it. Okay, and you can let it cook for a minute and then stir it. You don't have to keep stirring it too much. Okay, and then once it's nice and brown and crunchy, you can just put it right into here, okay? All right, so moving on to finish off our Kessler Schinken, our smoked pork loin. The last thing we obviously need is pork, right? Because now we've just got a container full of salty water, which isn't so great. So we've got a nice whole pork loin here, 2 actually. So I'm just going to unwrap these. Who wraps things like this? All right, Jesus. So we've got pork loin number 1 and pork loin number 2, which I'll just get ready. So again, before we use these, we need to take off the silver skin, okay? All right. Couple quick things. So you recall that I gave you guys a butchery quiz, right? On the e-learning system. Oh, we're on video here. I shouldn't talk like that. Whatever. So I gave you guys a quiz on the e-learning system. It didn't really work very well, right? A lot of you had issues logging in or getting shut out, right? To be honest with you, you guys don't need to worry so much about that test. That quiz for you won't go on your grading. That test was mostly for Peggy, right? Because she's not here, right? So I have to give her an alternate method of grades, right? So you guys don't need to worry so much about that. However, in the future, I'm not going to use the e-learning system again until they figure out what's going on. And so I probably will never use the e-learning system again. Because, you know, the school anniversary, right? You guys tried to log in, right? How'd that work out for you? Not so well, right? Did you guys all give your information to Sarah? Your computer, your model, your year, yeah? Okay, because I have to give all that to the IT because, I don't know, because they asked for it. Anyways, so here's our, keep cooking. So there's our brine, right? So I've got my pork loin here, also from the back, okay? Not to be confused with pork tenderloin. Okay, there's 2 loin cuts from pig. One is the pork loin, which is really more like a beef ribeye. If you had to equate it to a beef cut, this is more like the ribeye of beef. Then there's the pork tenderloin, which is like a beef tenderloin, okay? Oftentimes I'll order pork tenderloin, and this shows up. And they're like, yeah, it's the loin. I'm like, yeah, I need the tenderloin. Yeah, it's the loin. But you're missing one word. Yeah, it's fish. Great. It's a different species. Thank you. So again, the silver skin running on top. Okay, I want to take that off because it's not very good. So I'm just going to use my knife and go underneath here. So pork loin is very, very lean, okay? It's basically the leanest part of a pig, Okay? There's very little fat on it. So in Taiwan, it's not super commonly used in traditional Chinese cooking, right? It's only used in Chinese cooking for like quick frying, right? Very, very quick frying. But you would never use it for any kind of stew, right? Like you would never make don po ro out of pork loin. It would be the worst don po ro ever. So I'm just going to trim this off. A really famous dish that's made in Europe from pork loin is called schnitzel. Has anyone had schnitzel before? You probably have, but you just didn't know it was called schnitzel. Schnitzel is basically just, traditionally it's veal, and it's called Wiener Schnitzel. But it's more common now to find it made out of pork. And it's usually a large piece like this that's been hammered out, very, very thin, and then into breadcrumbs, and it's been deep fried. Okay? In Japanese cooking, they call it tonkatsu. So now you know what I'm talking about, right? So actually, more than likely, you guys have heard of tonkatsu before, right? Pork tonkatsu, right? The deep fried pork, right? So actually, you can keep going a little bit more. It's fine. So actually, pork tonkatsu was more than likely brought over from Europe by sailors. Okay? Much along the lines of, you know, tempura, Japanese tempura, right? That was actually from Portugal. So sailors from Portugal stopped in Japan, and the name tempura is, because it's not actually a true Japanese word, it's an anglicized word for Templar, which is Templar has something to do with the Bible. Okay? So if you look up the history of tempura, it was actually brought to Japan by Portuguese sailors. Similar to some other things like tonkatsu and even Japanese curry. Japanese curry was brought there by the English sailors when they were fighting India. And the Japanese changed the curry to fit their taste a bit more. They made it more sweet, and they changed the flavor profile and the color. So actually a great many things in Japanese cooking, in modern Japanese cooking, because there's very ancient Japanese cooking and there's modern, things like tonkatsu and tempura are fairly modern in their culinary history, are actually things that were brought by other people. So now I've trimmed off that silver skin. Okay, I'm going to leave this bit of fat on there because, as I mentioned, pork loin is already extremely lean, right? So I'm going to cut this in half now. And you can see, right? Do you remember before when I showed you guys the ribeye, before we put the ribeye in the aging room? We talked about something that runs through meat. Do you remember what that's called? Begins with an M. Any kind of fat that runs through a muscle. When people talk about beef, they always want beef that has a lot of it. Marbling. What did you say? Yeah. Boom. Mrs. Bacon got it. Marbling. Marbling is the amount of fat inside of a muscle. So this does not count as marbling, okay? Because this is exterior muscle fat. Marbling is only fat that runs through the muscle. So example, Wagyu beef and this, right? There's a big difference, right? In here there's no fat, right? There's a little bit, but hardly any, right? But Wagyu beef, it's almost 30, 40, 50% fat, right? So that's called marbling, okay? It's also called intramuscular fat, okay? Intra means in, and this is in your book, and you need to know this for your test. Intramuscular fat. Yes, ma'am. That looks pretty good. Let's just lower the heat a bit, and we'll cook it a bit more. Spread it out, get the cooking surface there. Yeah, we want to get that all nice and crunchy. All right, so we're going to take our other pork loin here. And And again, I'm just going to trim the silver skin away. Mr. Nick, yes.
Do we use the leaf or just the stem?
What?
Celery.
Oh, wait, what?
We use the stem only or
Yeah.
the leaf?
No, we never use leaves. It's not common in Western cooking to use leaves. And you probably just need to do probably just what you have on your board here, and this is extra, okay? All right, that's good. You can take that off. So again, I'm just going to finish taking this silver skin off. And if you guys want to take a look at you remember we put the beef in the dry aging fridge? Right, you guys can organize a time as a class and go up there and take a look. You just need to borrow the key, and one of these two, Sarah or Yuan Shi, can help you or tell you where to get that key from. If you want to go take a look, it's no problem. Don't open the fridge. Don't touch the meat. Okay? Obviously, don't open the fridge. Don't take it out like, You know what I'm saying? Okay? Just, you can look at it. You'll notice a very big, remember we went up before, right? Last week? Or was it you? You and me, right? Oh, I went up alone?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. One man, one desire this summer. But you guys can take a look anytime you want. Just as I said, don't open the door of the aging fridge and do not obviously touch it or anything, but just take a look. You'll notice a very big difference when you go up and see it. It'll be very dark in color, almost black, okay? And it'll be much smaller. You'll notice it's much smaller, about 25% or 30% smaller. You can take that bacon out. Turn off the heat. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, you got it jacked up there. Jesus. Watch this red bar, right? You don't want to get so hot. Okay, that's fine. And then you can help them cut celery, okay? Whew. All right, so I'm just going to finish taking this off. And that's pretty good there. And then again, I'm just going to cut it in half, roughly half. And this is going to go into our brine. And later I'm going to probably put this into a smaller container because the red bin's a bit too big. Okay, so while I'm waiting to move this, we can start to get together our salads and our pastrami. Okay, I'll start slicing that. This should be I don't know if this works though. I don't think it works. Potatoes, fridge. I can put your phone into the bacon fat if you'd like, if that's more interesting to you. Get the potatoes, please, from the fridge. All right. So for our salads, so you can see now our buns, right? They're rising up pretty nicely already, right? They're maybe about 20% bigger than when we put them onto the tray already. So that's a good sign. So we've got our bacon. We've got some green onions. We've got some pickles, okay? We've got some good old-fashioned American mustard, okay? So we're going to make, like I said, an American-style potato salad. So we're going to use American-style mustard, or what? Sometimes this is called prepared mustard, or some people call it American mustard, okay? We've also got some sour cream. Can you see, is the equipment room open still for the bins? It might be, I don't know. If it is, can you grab another blue bin? We need more bowls. I feel like they just never have enough bowls. Yes, Lanza. Yeah, we just need more bowls. I feel like there's never enough bowls. Jay, where are you going? I'm going to tell the school less hours. Yeah. Buka kai. All right. So my potatoes now, I just want to start to cut these up. I'll probably cook them actually a little bit more even. So I'm just going to slice these up. I'm actually going to put these back into the steamer for a few minutes because they're still a little undercooked on the inside. How's it going, ladies? That's garbage. This we don't need. That's great. We got carrots here. Thank you. Okay. So I've got all this extra bacon fat that we used for cooking our bacon. So I'm going to split it up into 2 pans. And there we go. We've also got some butter here, so I'll split this up as well. I'm not going to split it up, but I'll put a little bit into each pan. And 10. Perfect. Okay. So my potatoes, I'm just going to cook a little bit in some butter and some bacon fat, just to give it a bit of extra flavor, because bacon fat is delicious. It will also give the potatoes a little color and a little added texture to the rest of our salad. I also need a pastry brush, and we're going to make a very simple egg wash. These fucking containers. You know what I think I want to start doing is all of your classes, so your Chinese charcuterie, your this class, and any of your cooking class. Do you have two? How many cooking classes do you have? 2 or 3 this semester? 2, right? Me and Chinese cooking. So I'm thinking like your classes and Daniel's classes, because I cannot stand these containers. They're just the most ridiculous thing ever. We just every week figure out how many eggs we need total for your class, for his class, for this class, for every class, and we just buy the cases. It's just way easier. So I think that's what I'm going to start doing. All right? Because these containers are so much packaging, and they're usually, a lot of the times they're broken. All right, so I've got a little egg wash here. Now my potatoes, I'm just going to start to cook these off. Just nice and slowly. I want a nice caramelized outside. The next thing we need to do is start to slice our pastrami. So who would anybody like to come up and use the meat slicer? Anybody? Anybody? Nobody, huh? The enthusiasm is just amazing. Oh, look at this. We got a somewhat unwilling volunteer. All right. So, we're going to take this. You can open it up right here. This. Great. Okay, that's going to go in the garbage, please. So you remember before, right? We took this beef, we brined it, right? Then we took it out of the brine, we coated it, right? I smoked it. So now it's been sitting, just getting all nice. And then again, you can see the inside, right? So if you guys want, you can come up and take a smell. It smells really, really good, actually. Okay. Okay. So it's got like a really sort of almost like a pickled, kind of a light sour, almost pickled smell. Smells good, yeah. So, what my friend here is going to do is he's going to take, again using our meat slicer, the key to this particular dish, okay, is having really nice thin slices, okay? It's what makes it sort of melt in your mouth, all right? So what I want you to do is, you've just got this tray here, okay? When I use a meat slicer, I like to do one slice first, right? To see the thickness, right? To gauge, do I want it thinner, thicker, I don't know, right? And so we just want these nice, not too thin, right? But fairly thin. We want just a nice thin slice. And this now just breaks apart. You see how easy that is? Wonderful. Okay, so you're going to slice that. Oh, a pastrami dance right there. You're going to portion it out, okay? How many people? Oh, sorry. I was like trying to talk and consume meat at the same time. How many people do we have today? $21, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 21. 2. So we want to make... So I want to make 22 portions, okay? So what you can do is you just slice it. Maybe about 4 slices per portion, okay? And you're going to put 1 portion on a tray, okay? You can do 4 or 5. All right, 5 portions to a tray, okay? And then we need, just fill it up, okay? So now I got my potatoes cooking. So I'm just using that bacon fat that we got from our bacon. I add a little butter because I like butter, okay? But you can see we're just getting a nice little bit of color on our potatoes, okay? Just a nice golden brown. That's going to add some texture, right? So it won't be all soft, but it also adds flavor, right? Caramelization, okay, adds 2 things, right? When you brown something, it adds texture and taste, okay? I also want to add a little bit of salt in here. But I don't want to add too much, right? So we're making potato salad, right? In that potato salad, we're going to use pickles, which are already salty, right? We're also going to use bacon, also salty, right? So I don't want to add too much salt to that yet, because if I add a lot of salt now, later I'm going to be regretting it, okay? I mean, I'm not going to be at home like, oh, what happened? But it won't be as good as I want it to be, okay? Now, to finish our coleslaw, there's 2 types of coleslaw, generally. There's a vinegar-based and a mayonnaise-based, okay? So, because we're going to put some mayonnaise into our potato salad and sour cream, I don't want to have both mayonnaise, right? Mayonnaise-based potato salad and mayonnaise-based coleslaw. It'd be too much, right? So we're going to do a vinegar-based one today, which is the original one, traditional. And then we'll have just more of an American mayonnaise-style potato salad, all right? So to finish our coleslaw, I'm going to split up my cabbage. Just into sort of equal bowls. Then I'm going to take some carrot, our julienne carrot, and put a nice heaping pile of that in there. I've probably got a bit too much here, but that's okay. Little rascal. What's up, dog? Just trim that off. Or you can just switch to a new piece. Yeah, trim that off and try to get a bit more out of there. Or you can switch to a new piece, that's fine. We have quite a bit, so don't worry too much, okay? Okay, so I've got my cabbage, my carrot. I'm going to take some spring onion. And I'm going to put some in here, and I'm going to save some for our potato salad as well, okay? Because this kind of goes well with all salads, really. Then what I want to do is take a little bit of sugar. I'm going to take a little handful of white sugar and just sprinkle this over. A little bit more. Now the thing with coleslaw, you'll find a lot of recipes have a bit of sugar in them. And actually the sugar is not so much for flavor. It's actually because cabbage gives people a lot, raw cabbage can give you gas. Okay? Panpi, you know? You know, right? And so the sugar helps to counteract that. There's a chemical reaction when you add it to raw cabbage to kind of counteract that that effect that it has on people. What's up, homie? Yeah, you need. How many do you need to make? And how many do you have? So what do you think? So I got a little sugar in there. I'm also going to put some salt. And then I've got some vinegar here. So this is really nice French. This is apple cider vinegar from Normandy, okay? So it's fairly expensive in Taiwan to get this. This bottle is about 300 NT. So it's fairly expensive, but it's very good. And I like good things. Actually, we don't pay for this. We get it for free. But it is expensive here, okay? Very, very often I get, and it has a sort of an apple-y, kind of a sour apple smell to it. Quite often when I order apple vinegar, what I get in Taiwan is the big red box, you know, that people just drink. Like the sour apple drink, you know. In Taiwan you can get that, right? But that's not the same thing. That's just vinegar with apple juice added to it, basically. This is vinegar made from fermenting apples. Okay, so it's fairly different, okay? All right. So now, I'm going to get a couple more bowls and just let my potatoes rest in these bowls for a minute. How are we doing there? You got off? Good. Okay, great. What I meant was like, are you finished? Okay, good. So let our potatoes just rest here for a little bit, cool down a wee bit. So I've got my cabbage, I've got my carrots, I've got my green onion, I've got some sugar, a little bit of salt, you don't need too much. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of apple cider vinegar in here. Good, you can leave that for now. So you've got enough here?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you can leave that now. We'll clean it up when we're done. And I just want to wash up So I'm just going to wash up and I'm just going to start to sort of mix this cabbage together, okay? And I want to kind of break it down a little bit, you know? Really give it a good crushing. Just to make sure it all gets broken down. And then the same with this one. So most people, when they think of coleslaw, what country do you think of? Huh? Yeah, most people when they think of coleslaw think of America, but it's actually from Scandinavia, like Northern Europe, you know, Denmark, Norway, yeah. That's where it's actually originally from. It's got a very Scandinavian name, coleslaw. I'm obviously not Scandinavian, but that's what they call it. What? Oh. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I like my coleslaws to be a little more sour than sweet. Because remember, we're having a potato salad with mayonnaise, right? Which is very rich, right? Also, this beef is fairly rich, right? So we want it to be kind of balanced, right, between sour and non-sour items. And so that's our coleslaw, okay? Very easy, super, super easy salad to make. But when it's done right, it's fairly delicious, okay? Now, onto our potato salad. And you can see now our bread, it's almost doubled in size, but I still want it to get a little bit bigger. So I'm going to take my potatoes. I'm just going to split these up roughly in half, okay? Whenever I make salads or something like this, it's easier to use 2 bowls than try to have it one bowl that's just huge, right? Because as you start mixing it, it's going to go everywhere, right? Just make your life a little bit easier, okay? So we've also got some cheese. I know you guys like cheese, right? Yeah. Now we've got 2 different kinds here, okay? And you guys are welcome to use whatever kind you'd like, okay? You guys, once the bread is made, I'll leave it to you guys to make your own sandwiches. And you can use the oven here or the oven here to toast them off, okay? Or just to melt the cheese if you want. We've got lots of trays. So you can put some cheese on your meat, put it on your bread. We got little trays here. You can just put them in the oven, okay? Whatever, right? I'll leave that to you guys. That doesn't concern me at all. Now, for our potato salad, we've got our remainder of our green onions, so we're going to split this up again between the 2. We've got our dill pickles here, again splitting between the 2. We've got our bacon. So we'll split it equally between the two. And we've got celery. And this is probably too much as well, but that's all right, whatevs. One of the main reasons I like to add celery to potato salad is to give it some texture, some crunch, a little juiciness. It's kind of like a little watery, a little refreshment to it, So it just adds a nice texture to it, and that's one of the main reasons why I put it in. It doesn't do a lot, like celery doesn't have a lot of flavor, right? It's fairly mild. And when you put it in with something with bacon and pickles and green onions, it essentially, the taste is lost, right? But for this, I like to add it because it gives a nice crunch, okay? Some life. Okay, that looks great. Yeah, okay. So now for this, I want to take some American mustard or prepared mustard. And I'll just give it, silly me, some high security, very high security mustard here. All right. And I've got a little bit of mayonnaise here. I also got some eggs, which you guys cooked, right? You remember? And peeled. And we've got some sour cream, right? And actually, I do need some help because this is all free, so I will need you guys to take a couple photos for me, okay? But we can do that after class when we're cleaning up, or in a minute. So you guys know a lot of the ingredients we use are free, right? You know that? Yeah, we don't pay for our butter, we don't pay for our milk, we don't pay for our cream. We don't pay for any of this cheese. We don't pay for any of those vinegars. We don't pay for chocolate. We don't pay for this. We don't pay for... We get more for free than what we actually pay for, which is the way culinary schools should be, I think. But a lot of businesses think otherwise. At any rate, one of the deals that we have with one of these deals that I made with the company is that part of giving it to us for free is that we have to take photos of us using it in class, okay? And then I send that to the company. They put it on their website. We support the school. We're good for the community, whatever. So that's kind of how it works, okay? So periodically, I might ask you guys to take photos for me, and it's just going to be like a setup photo. Yeah, let's just do a few now. I'll give you an example, okay? So let's say that I wanted to talk about this vinegar, right? So why don't you just, yeah, it's better straight on. So I would just talk to you guys about this vinegar, how it's made in France, how it's made from fermenting apples to make vinegar, and it's got kind of a sweet taste. It's not so high in acidity, really great for salads, whatever. I would give you guys some information about the product, show the product, right? Have you taken a photo yet? Are you making a video or photos? Okay, good. So I would talk to you guys a little bit about the products, right? Because in other classes we have together, you guys are going to be using these products a lot more, right? Which means you have to take photos of yourself using them, right? That's part of the deal. If you don't get to use them, right? Which means your ingredient fee goes. And then, can you take a photo of me just using the product? You see, it's all like. Okay, that's great. Now, it might seem funny to you, right? It seems funny, right? Like, why do we have to do this and we're taking these photos? But I can tell you, last year, the students combined for my baking class and my Western class, right? They paid about 250,000 NT for ingredients, and they got about half of that back, right? So in my classes, you get around half your money back. The fee, the ingredient fee you pay. So it's really up to you guys, okay? the reason I like doing this is because if we have extra ingredient fee, we can get better products, right? Instead of ordering the cheapest beef, we can get the most expensive beef, the highest quality, right? Instead of using prawns, we can use lobster. You know what I mean? So this is sort of your responsibility as a class. If you don't want to take photos and don't want to manage this, that's fine. You just don't get to use the products, right? I'll use them for other classes, right? So you guys have to sort of manage that, right? The responsibility is yours, right? For me, it doesn't matter. I don't care, right? I want you to use the best products we can use because it's better for you to learn using top quality ingredients because you learn how to respect them and how to cook them properly, okay? But if you're not interested in that, that's fine, okay? So, photos. Also, we're going to use sour cream, okay? This Emborg is a Dutch company. Emborg is a Dutch company. They make a wide variety of dairy products, from brie cheese to camembert cheese to sour cream to all kinds of things. They even make caviar, lumpfish caviar, which we're going to use in another class for a dish as well. So that's a great product. I think that's it for today. Oh, mustard, also free. So, see, there's so many things we get free. I have to keep track of, like, what do we pay for, what do we don't pay for. So this also free, great deal, okay? So we're going to use this in our potato salad, okay? All right, that'll be it for today for photos, okay? Anyway, so now we got our potato salad here. I'm going to take some mayonnaise. And I'm going to put a little bit of mayonnaise in each bowl. Normally, I would prefer to make my own. I don't really like buying mayonnaise, but since you guys had a bunch of it, I figured you're not probably going to use it again. I'll use it. So I'm also going to take some sour cream, and I'm going to squeeze a bit of sour cream in there. Now, you may be wondering why I'm using sour cream. So I could just use all mayonnaise, right? But if I use only mayonnaise, it becomes really oily, very rich, very heavy, you know, like kind of eh. Sour cream is a way to add a richness to something without too much heaviness because it's sour, right? It's got like a sour aftertaste. So it's still gives you that sort of dairy feeling without being too heavy like a mayonnaise. So it's all about balancing, okay? So my bread here is looking pretty good, yeah? And it's just about ready to go in the oven. So let's give it a quick egg wash here. And in a lot of big hotels or big bakeries, their egg wash, they'll be either in a spray machine, like a spray machine, or a spray gun. Because doing 1 by 1 for 20 is okay, but if you have to do 300, you're going to be like Michelangelo or Picasso after. You've been painting, been doing egg wash paintings for so long, you'll be up in churches like the Sistine Chapel giving it an egg wash. So we're just going to brush this off real quick. And then we'll let it rest for a few more minutes before we get it in the oven. Did you guys bring something to eat with today? Spoons, something? Good luck eating coleslaw with chopsticks. Okay. It would be a good idea for you guys to carry that stuff around all the time, right? Okay. So also my eggs, I'm just going to cut up and plop these in as well. And I'm not too worried about cutting them up small because I'm going to actually go in there and sort of mash this salad together. And as I do that, it'll sort of crush up the eggs, okay? You can also use a box grater. Do you guys know what a box grater is? For shredding carrots, right? It's a square, like tall square, right? It's called a box grater. You can use a box grater and mash the eggs through the box grater. That also works too. But I mean, since I'm going to go in here and kind of crush this salad up a little bit, I figured I don't need to use a box grater and crush the salad. It's a little redundant. All right. So again, I'm just going to wash up. It's funny, you remember from hygiene and safety, right? We talked about food service gloves, right? Latex gloves. I told you guys, always in Taiwan, people use them for like the wrong reason, or they use them over and over again, and they think like, oh, it's sanitary. It's more safe. I have gloves on, right? But that's not really true, right? Because if I go to the bathroom wearing latex gloves, and then I come back and like, oh, it's okay. I have gloves on. So a couple days ago, my wife and I were watching TV, and there was a news article about a restaurant over by Zhongshan Henlu and Boailu, the big MRT station, right? And there's a famous, some sort of like Jembing, I don't know, some famous Jembing store, right? It was on the news, and they were asking, I need a Jembing Hao. They're going all crazy about it, right? And they had the lady, she's explaining it like, oh yes, my wrap, it's so delicious because I use these ingredients and everything is made fresh. And she's got a latex glove on one hand and a bare hand on the other hand, and she's just touching all the ingredients, right? And then she's grabbing something here and then grabbing money there. And I was like, this is the best example of why it's best to not use latex gloves unless you have a cut or something like that, right? You just wash your hands. My hands are as clean now as if I put on latex gloves, they would be no cleaner, okay? Anyways, so now I'm going to get this mixed up. And I just want to crush up these potatoes a little bit. Crush up these eggs a little bit. And actually, you remember the same mixer that we used for the bread? It would be very easy to just put this in that same mixer, but with a different attachment, right? The paddle attachment. And then just beat it together very quickly. Just give it a quick beat in that machine, and that would crush everything for us by hand, or by machine. It would be very fast. Can you come up here for a minute? I just need a little bit of salt in here. I don't want to touch the salt because I'm a little bit more. A little bit more. You sprinkle it like a fairy. There you go. Okay. That's good. No, that's great. Well, I haven't tasted it yet. I don't know. Probably not. This will be okay. I think combined, this should be fine. Okay. So now we're going to get our potato salad all together here. Okay. So we got our potato salad done, we got our coleslaw done, okay? Now I want to get these buns into the oven. So I've egg washed them. They're going to go into an oven at about 180, 190 degrees. And I'm just going to put another tray. So the reason I put the other tray is because they're going, some ovens have a rack and some are straight on the stone. This is straight on the stone. So if I put the tray straight on the stone, the bottom of the buns might get very, very dark before the inside is cooked. Okay? By putting a double pan, I just kind of insulate it or make it less heat up less fast. Okay? All right. Now, the traditional way in a lot of delis, and you guys know what a deli is? A deli? A deli is a store where you buy meats or sandwiches. Like Subway would be a deli, sort of. Okay? But a traditional deli, D-E-L-I, not Delhi like New Delhi in India, but a traditional deli would be a store where you could buy sausages and meats and cured meats and things like pickles and fermented vegetables and sandwiches and salads, okay? So in New York, this type of meat is very, very famous, okay? And what they do is they actually steam it to heat it up, okay? So I've got here I've got the oven set on steam, okay? And I'll just get these in. Of course it doesn't fit. Who buys stuff? I don't know. Whoever designed this school is just an idiot. I've never worked in a place, ever in my life, and I've worked in some weird places, but everything is misshaped. There's no standard shape. Do you know what I mean? Either the oven is too big or the tray is too small, or the tray is too small and the oven is too big. It's like, I don't know, it's insane. There's just no standardization, you know? Every hotel you go to, everything is the same size. Here, every bin, I don't know, it's crazy. But that's life, right? So I'm going to put these into the steamer. And just a couple minutes in there. Won't take long. So does everyone want cheese? Everyone, yeah? Does anyone not want cheese? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, last chance. Oh, maybe I can get a photo of this too. Well, because, you know, it's also a sponsor company, right? And actually this company, Anchor, is from New Zealand, okay? But they give us a lot of stuff. From just this company, our butter, our cream, our milk, and all of our cheese is all free. And if you look at the money, right, the value of that, every month they give us about 90,000 NT in products. 90,000 every month. So they're a really great company. This company is great for working with schools. And the local Taiwanese company is also really good about helping us out. There's two companies. Another one is called Lactalis, which I think you may have heard of before. Lactalis? Yeah. So Lactalis is a French company. They make President butter or Galbani cheeses, okay? They're sort of, you know, like Coca-Cola, the drink, right? You know how Coca-Cola, they own a lot of things, right? So Lactalis is sort of like that. Lactalis is a very big food and beverage company in Europe, based out of France, and they own smaller companies, okay? But they've also been very good with working with the school in providing us with good quality products so that you guys can use, you know, a wider variety of products, right? Because when you're here, right, this is the time to use as many things as you can, right? and ask questions about it, you know? So that's why I try to get as many products for you as possible, okay? So I'm just going to open this up, and since everybody wants cheese, then we will just put cheese on all of them. Yeah, of course. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and grab these out of the oven. Steamer. Oh yeah, now we're talking. That just looks great because you've got this nice steaming, warm, sort of salty pile of meat, which is wonderful. So I have a couple of these you guys can use when you want to put it on your buns, okay? Because it will be fairly hot. Oh, wrong cheese. It'll be pretty hot, and you don't want to burn your fingers. And I don't want you to burn your fingers. So let's just get some of this out of here. It's a little bit funny, actually. So before coming to this school, I worked at your school, but in South Korea, at the Institute Paul Bocuse in South Korea. And I never thought, I always knew that Asian people generally don't like cheese too much, right? Like mozzarella you guys like, right? On pizza, something like that, right? I always see the commercials, the guy taking the pizza like, whoa, you know? Everyone's like, holy cow! You know, and he's like walking like 10 feet away, like, yeah, look at that cheese stretch, right? So like really mild cheeses generally Asians like, right? But in not too much. But when I was in South Korea, I was very surprised how much cheese they eat. They even use it, they have like a whole new sort of style of Korean food where they put cheese on things. So there's like typical Korean style hot pots, you know, where they have the very spicy kimchi soup, you know, with noodles, and they put cheese on top of it, you know? And I got there, I was like, oh, God, what is this, you know? And they were like, oh, it's great, it's the new food. I was like, cheese doesn't always make things better, you know? Cheese is made to enhance a meal, not take over, you know? Like when I see pizzas covered in cheese, that just doesn't, that's not a good pizza, right? And traditionally, pizzas, if you go to like a traditional Italian pizzeria, they really don't use very much cheese. They use really good cheese and just a little bit to make the pizza good, right? If your pizza is like a mountain of cheese, that's not no. Okay, your pizza is not good. Okay? That's not I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it. Like if you like it, that's fine. But in terms of like pizza making, that's not really very good. I can see just talking about it, you're getting excited. You're like, I want pizza now. So I'm just turning the steamer off, okay? Because this is hot enough and this is already warm. And so I'll just take these back. That's pretty hot, actually. So I'm just going to plop this back in here just to stay warm. All right. So I think what we can do now, because we have to wait till our bread gets finished, right? So while we're waiting for this, let's start to like tidy everything up, right? Get a little more organized here so that when the bread comes out, we can just kind of eat here, and this section is all clean already. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no point just sitting here waiting, right? That's stupid. So up, please. Let's start to tidy up. Let's start to clean up. Sarah, could you go down to B1? You know the lady in B1? The equipment lady, the small lady. Can you go down there and see if we can borrow a deep hotel? Do you know what a hotel pan is?
Oh.
Yeah, see if we can borrow a deep hotel pan. Okay?
Okay.
All right.